Psalm 4, verses 1 through 8. Answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief for my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. How long will you people turn my glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. Tremble and do not sin. When you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. Offer the sacrifices of the righteous and trust in the Lord. Many, Lord, are asking, who will bring us prosperity? Let the light of your face shine on us. Fill my heart with joy when their grain and new wine abound. In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Last week we tried to understand the conflict in our lives. Put any two human beings in a room, sooner or later you're bound to experience conflict. The question is not how we can avoid conflict, but how can we embrace conflict in our lives and manage and resolve it. We have also read Psalm 3 last week. David prayed through a conflict in his life. Instead of meeting his rebellious son Absalom in battle, David flees Absalom but prays the words of battle against him. Today in Psalm 4, we try to understand something we experience in our hearts when we face conflict or enemies in our lives. Anger. What is anger? According to a dictionary, anger is a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. We feel this emotion if someone has committed something against us or deprived us of something. In Psalm 4, 4-5, King David offers us practical words of wisdom in dealing with anger. Please note that although Psalm 4 in the NIV says this, tremble and do not sin, it can also read, in your anger, do not sin. In your anger, do not sin. When you are on your bed, search your hearts and be silent. Offer the sacrifices of the righteous and trust in the Lord. Psalm 4, 4-5. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul quotes Psalm 4 verse 4 when he writes about anger. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. Ephesians 4, 26-27. Practically, both King David and the Apostle Paul say the same thing. In your anger, do not sin. Search your hearts and be silent. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. In other words, when you are angry, do not act on your impulses immediately. Process your anger slowly. Take some time to pray through your anger. Trust God to act for you. Known as one of the greatest soccer players in European history, French footballer Zinedine Zidane put together a sparkling athletic career. Viewed as a player of uncommon skill with a penchant for big game goals, he led the French national team to a World Cup championship in 1998. The French team was not expected to do well in the 2006 World Cup in Germany. Most people were surprised when Zidane led his team into the World Cup final. Things started out brilliantly for the superstar that would be the final game of his exceptional career. One penalty kick in the first half of play resulted in Zidane chipping the ball over the arms of the Italian goalkeeper and into the goal for the first goal of the match. When the Italians tied the score several minutes later, it looked like a perfect opportunity for the French captain to end his career with another game-winning goal and another championship. However, his temper intervened. During the first half of overtime play, Zidane engaged in a verbal confrontation with Italian defender Marco Materazzi. In what would be his final act as a professional soccer player, Zinedine Zidane wheeled around to face Materazzi, lowered his head and slammed into the Italian's chest, knocking him to the ground. They call it a headbutt. The referee saw it and flashed a red card, ejecting the French captain from the game. As large screens around the stadium replayed Zidane's inability to control his temper, the once proud legend walked off the pitch with his head lowered in shame. Therefore, we need to slowly process our anger and not let it get the better of us. Sometimes it takes us a long time to process the anger or the conflict. We have been staying at home for 11 months now because of the coronavirus. We pondered over the words of King David and the Apostle Paul. In your anger, do not sin. We have taken 11 months to process this virus. We remember the anguish we experienced in March and April 2020. However, if you're like me, on some days when you are still in your basement doing work all by yourself, two words come up in your mind. How long? How long? How long, Lord, are you going to keep me in this basement? How long are you going to allow COVID-19 to control our lives? How long is it going to be until most of our population gets vaccinated? How long are we going to stay home? How long are we going to be kept from seeing our parents in faraway places? How long? How long? David also resorts to these two words, how long? Answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. How long will you people turn my glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? David laments over the persecution from his oppressors. He first calls out to God to hear his prayers for relief from the present distress. Then, like all of us, David goes on to pray. How long? How long? David wonders if he has enough resources to carry on this period of torment. David processes the anger he has inside him. He prays through Psalm 4. Last week when we read Psalm 3, we learned of David's eldest son Absalom wanting to usurp his father's throne. As our present Psalm 4 will confirm, Absalom is not the only person David has struggles with. David grows up as a shepherd boy who plays the harp. David is brought into the court of King Saul of Israel to play his harp for Saul. King Saul is an emotionally tormented king. David's music soothes him. It is this musical background in David that results in him writing most of the songs that will now appear as the Psalms in the Old Testament. David is also a warrior. While he is still a shepherd boy, he kills the giant Goliath of the Philistines with his slingshot. King Saul gets jealous of David. This is what people sing. As they danced, they sang, Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands. 1 Samuel 18 verse 7. On many occasions, David sends his men to kill David, but David escapes. Once when David is playing his music before Saul, Saul tries to kill David with a spear, but David escapes. This list of enemies for David also includes enemies of Israel like the Philistines and the Ziphites. However, God protects David from his enemies. David emerges as a king of Israel. David is a shepherd boy, musician, and warrior who becomes a king. The Lord sets David apart as his faithful servant. The Lord hears David when he calls to him. Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. Psalm 4 verse 3. David is not only assured that God looks after him and protects him from his enemies, David also asks whether his enemies are standing on solid footing. His enemies want to prosper, but they refuse to look up to God for help. Many, Lord, are asking, who will bring us prosperity? Let the light of your face shine on us. Fill my heart with joy when their grain and new wine abound. Psalm 4, 6-7. David knows that the source of all his blessings in life is God. Therefore, he prays to press. Let the light of your face shine upon us. David is the king of Israel. David prays that God will bring his prosperity on David and Israel. And the second is a prayer that David prays when his enemies are prospering at his expense. Fill my heart with joy when their grain and new wine abound. Like most of the Psalms, Psalm 4 illustrates a journey that David experiences as he sings the song. He starts off with a cry of distress. Answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress and have mercy on me and hear my prayer. Psalm 4 verse 1. And then in the next 6 verses, he processes the enemies and the conflict in his life, and he comes to grips with the anger that he expresses. Then at the end of this journey of prayer, God helps him resolve his situation. He is now able to sleep. In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. In Psalm 3 and 4, David seems to address a problem that is common to us, the lack of sleep. Sometimes we are too engrossed with the problem we are facing. We worry so much that it consumes us for the whole night. Early this week, I forgot and took some coffee at 4 p.m. Later that night, I had difficulty sleeping. As a practice, I do not take coffee after 12 noon so that I can sleep. However, earlier this week, I got tempted with French vanilla coffee at 4 p.m. As a result, I could not sleep well that night. David ends Psalm 4 with this verse, "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." Psalm 4 verse 8. Despite all the trouble he faces in his life, David has this inner peace in his heart. It is evening, David will lay down and sleep as the Lord makes him dwell in safety. Psalm 4 is sometimes known as an evening prayer. Last week we looked at Psalm 3. We read Psalm 3 verse 5. "I lay down and slept. I woke again, for the Lord sustained me." Psalm 3 verse 5. In Psalm 3 verse 5, David thanks God for the previous night's sleep. He says that the Lord sustained him through the sleep. Psalm 3 is sometimes known as a morning prayer. Psalm 3 and 4 encourages the readers of the psalm to pray in the morning and to pray in the evening. Psalm 3 is a prayer to be prayed to start the day in the morning. Psalm 4 is a psalm to pray at the end of the day, in the evening. The psalms teach us to pray 24/7. In 1985, I had just finished my university studies in Sydney, Australia. I was scheduled to return to Malaysia. I decided to take the bus coach from Sydney in the east and go to Perth in Western Australia. I would then fly home to Kuala Lumpur from Perth. I took the bus from Sydney on Monday morning and arrived in Perth on Friday morning. This was the first time I sat in a seat in a bus for 5 days. I could not sleep for the first 48 hours. It is difficult to sleep when you're sitting vertically. Eventually, I got so tired that I could fall asleep sitting. I think that when it comes to processing sleep in our life, it is just like this. We do have sleepless nights when we worry a lot. Eventually, we fall asleep as we get so tired. This is the ebb and flow of life. We have sleepless nights. Eventually, we get so tired that we fall asleep. However, whatever happens, God looks after us, sleep or no sleep. "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." Psalm 4 verse 8. Amen.